everybody, I am Tiffany and today I am bringing you another book review. I'm so excited because this book marks some progression in a series for me, which puts me one step closer to finishing the series, which makes me feel so awesome. There is nothing better than that feeling of completing a series. It's the best feeling in the world because then you're like, yes, got another series off my list. Now this book today, it's the second book in a series, and the first book I completely loved and I could not wait to get to this book, and I finally finished it. If you haven't read the title already, I'm doing a review on the second book in the Fifth Wave series, The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. Now this series, I think I mentioned it in one of my book hauls, I was very hesitant about at the beginning because a lot of people said they loved the first book, but then the second and third book didn't live up to par. And when I saw the second book and how tiny it was compared to the first book, I got very scared. This is the first book. This is the second book. There's a big difference in thickness of the book. Personally, I like my second books to be bigger than my first book because to me that's expanding on the world. So yes, I was very, very anxious that I was not going to like the second book. And not gonna lie, I am still actually nervous about the rest of the series, but I will say that I actually really did enjoy The Infinite Sea. My only problem with it was it did take me a while to get through, but not because I wasn't entertained in any way. School started, that's right. Everyone knows. School can take up a lot of time, but I was a little upset that it did take me so long to finish. I did really enjoy the second book, but it is kind of giving me the feeling of another series that I read that ended up actually really disappointing me. And this is the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a good series, but I had the same conundrum where I went into it with people loving the first book and not liking the second and third book. And I read the first book, loved the first book, just like everyone else, but I went into the second book with lower expectations, and I ended up actually really liking the second book, even though a lot of people didn't like it. And so I went into the third book super excited because the second book really still caught my attention. But I ended up being hugely let down by the finale, and that is what I am concerned about. But let's get back to the actual book at hand, The Infinite Sea. For those of you who want statistics, this book got a 3.90 on Goodreads, which isn't necessarily the best rating in all honesty. I gave it 4 stars, so I gave it a little bit higher, but I'm not saying that's completely inaccurate. I think it was just because it was short and some of the stuff was kind of confusing in there. It's trying to get a little bit too complicated for me, but I still did really enjoy myself, and I still did enjoy the twists and turns within this book. For those of you who have no idea what the Fifth Wave is about, it follows a girl named Cassie who is living in an apocalyptic world where aliens have taken over. And it seems like their goal is to wipe humans off the face of the earth, like they never existed. And so they go through these different waves of how to do so, hence why the first book is called The Fifth Wave. This book continues Cassie's journey and her struggle to survive in this crazy world. If you haven't picked up this series, I would suggest you go ahead and go and read it just to get an idea for yourself. It's very much a thinking book. It plays tricks on your mind. That is really all I can tell you without spoiling you because this is the second book in a series. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the spoilery section. If you haven't read it, go read it and tell me about all your feels and what you thought of the book as well. See you later, non-spoilery people. Goodbye. Read the book. Like I said, I was not happy that the book was shorter than the first book just because I tend to like my sequels to either be bigger or about the same length. I just don't like it to be drastically smaller like this. It makes me feel a little bit confused, especially when this book was supposed to be a trilogy. It makes me kind of sad because a trilogy for me especially, I like it when there's bigger books. Bigger books allow you to build the world more, even though you don't have as many books. But overall, I did really like it. You got to learn a lot more about different characters. The main character you start to learn about is Ringer. I will admit, I had to go back and watch my book review and try and remember the characters because it had been so long since I read the first book, but I really actually enjoyed her perspective. She was one of my favorite characters. She's super intriguing, she's super smart. I just liked her character a lot. Her storyline automatically opens up with this big bombshell because Teacup gets shot by Ringer. And I was like, when I read that, just because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting her to get hunted. I had no idea that Teacup had followed her out, and I felt that impact, and I thought Teacup was going to die. But she didn't. But still, I felt that impact. And then Ringer getting captured and having to give herself up in order to save Teacup, that whole sequence was absolutely crazy, and it was heart-pounding for me. They are right back in the aliens' hands. So you have that going on, and then we go to Cassie and her group and her high school crush Ben, or Zombie as they call him, and the rest of his pack. And they're all waiting in this hotel for Evan. I was saying that Evan better be alive. Evan was my favorite character. I wanted him to be alive. I knew he would be. But they're sitting there waiting, and they don't think he's ever going to come. You see Cassie getting so disheartened and losing hope, and you just want to be like, Cassie, no, don't lose hope because your love is so magical. I really wanted to jump in the book and be like, everyone, no one is allowed to say a bad thing about Evan because he is better than all of you. And then you finally do cut to Evan, which I'm glad that happened pretty quick in the book. I thought they were going to really drag it out and make us wonder if he was alive or not. I was really happy that you got his perspective pretty early on, so you knew that he was trying to get back to Cassie. Did it still piss me off how they got reunited? Yes, because they basically got reunited for a little bit, but then automatically they get torn apart again because of the crazy alien girl that I guess really wanted to be Evan's girlfriend. That's not really true, but it seemed like she was really jealous of Cassie, okay? This girl was a pain in the butt. One, she tried to seduce Evan. No. He's Cassie's. No one touches him but Cassie. And then she almost kills him. And I was so mad because I thought for a split second that maybe Evan was gonna die before he got to Cassie, and then I was gonna be like, no. But then of course, the girl follows him back and she almost kills everyone else. She kills Pound Cake, which his story was actually very, very sad, by the way. But still, she almost kills everybody and separates Cassie and Evan again. And now Cassie's thinking he died again. Stop separating them or making me think that people were gonna die that actually didn't die. The only people that died in this book, I believe, were Pound Cake and I think Teacup at the end. I gotta say though, the one annoying thing about this book more than anything else is it did that, no offense, really dumb thing where they fake a death and they make you maybe think they're dead but really they're not, and then they're like, oh my gosh, they're alive. I hate that. I know that it plays great effect if you do it right, but when you're doing it for almost every character in the book, I'm getting annoyed. Zombie almost died, Teacup almost died, then did die. Evan we thought died again, but then he didn't die. Pound Cake I think was the only one that died. It was frustrating. I didn't mind the Teacup one so much, but because it led into a super dire situation, the others just felt like it was unnecessary. And then what happens is that I actually want a character to die because none of the others are dying and I keep expecting them to die. And then my expectations get disappointed. I don't want to feel like I need the characters to die in order to like a book. That's sad. But I do hate that. I hate when there's outs in books that are so unnecessary or all of a sudden just magically appear. If a character is supposed to die, then they gotta die. No matter how much you like them. The best books kill your favorites. It's the truth though. But I will say that Pound Cake's backstory, I know probably a lot of people didn't really care as much about Pound Cake, but I really did feel his backstory about his brother and his family, and it just broke my heart. And the fact that you learned about him that way right before he died, it really did pack a punch in my heart for him. And I thought that was done beautifully. Still, my favorite perspective throughout this entire book was Ringer because she had to deal with Vosh again. That was such a mind game. A cat and mouse chess mixed together. It was crazy. You had so many different elements at play and you had so many different twists. She meets the guy Razor that you think is helping her out, but then all of a sudden he turns on her too. It was crazy. Her whole storyline just went bonkers a bit, and there were elements that I really liked about it because it was so unpredictable, but it did get a little bit out of hand for me too. But that whole sequence when she's escaping and she's like in the helicopter and she has to jump out and then she's dealing with Razor betrayal, it was just I was in a panic the whole time. But the most interesting part is you start to kind of find out about the aliens, and this is where the book got really confusing for me. I don't even know how to explain it. They inject her with something that makes her have the abilities that Evan and them have. It basically came to, in my brain, the conclusion of that these kids that think they're aliens don't actually have an alien. They were injected with this stuff and they think they are that, but really they're normal people with enhanced stuff in them, which means Evan is not an alien. I don't even know. I'm so confused. And I hope the next book explains it. But that's what happened in my mind. If I got it wrong, like, let me know. Because that's what makes sense in my head right now. That's where I meant that it got really complicated without it needing to be. I just kind of stood there after going, what? Help my brain. Bavash is an alien. There are aliens. But the kids that are technically among them that have enhanced features are not. They just think they are. Oh, are they programming them? Kind of how they're brainwashing the kids now, but instead these were like the beginning ones that they programmed to kill other humans, even though they're humans themselves. I may have just figured it out. Ben didn't really interest me this much in this book, I gotta say. I don't know why. Maybe because he didn't have as much of a perspective. I think because he was insulting Evan the whole time and I was getting annoyed that he was insulting Evan. But I think he's gonna end up with Ringer, so I don't think he's like a threat to them. But he was just annoying me this time. Even though he was dying, and I understand why he was paranoid, but it just got to a point where I didn't want to really deal with him. Just wanted to focus on Evan and Cassie. And I'm upset that they are separated once again. I will say the part that creeped me out the most, though, was the whole thing with the bomb inside the kid. One thing about this book is it had a strong opening and it had a strong ending. The opening shows their new method of killing humans, which is have a little kid have a bomb planted inside them and not know. And then they take them in and then it explodes. And that was super dark. That started out with really dark expectations of this book. And the book was still dark and gloomy. But I was just like, what the heck just happened? Are you kidding me? And so when the little girl came, oh my gosh, I was like, no, she's cute, but no, you gotta turn her away. I liked that element a lot, was the fact that you knew and they didn't. That's something the Fifth Wave did a lot, is that the characters didn't know exactly what was happening, but you either had a clue or you knew. You wanted to tell the characters even though you physically can't. That's not possible. If someone knows, that would be great. To jump into a book and be like, hey guys, this is actually what's gonna happen, so don't do this because I like you and I don't want you to die. You know, that'd be great. That'd be great. But I did like that you had that foreboding, and when you saw the girl come in, it was crazy intense. And then them trying to undo the bomb, it was great because you saw the banter between Evan and Cassie, but it was super intense as well. But I did love that banter between those two characters because they really hadn't had it until that moment because they had no time to, and they barely just reunited. And then of course the ending for me was super strong when it came to Ringer's perspective. You have Razor, he's betrayed her, and there's Teacup. And you know, the only thing that's keeping Ringer from running off is the fact that Teacup is there and alive. She doesn't want to abandon Teacup. And Razor does something very unpredictable. Even though he betrayed Ringer and got her captured again, he takes a stand and shoots Teacup and kills her. And that moment was super shocking for me, and I felt that. Razor died, Teacup died, and then the last words of Razor were saying to Ringer, you're free. And that I thought was beautiful in a very dark way. That moment allowed Ringer to run away, to escape, and to go find them because she wasn't tied to anybody anymore there. It started out really dark and it ended very dark. And it fulfilled Teacup actually dying. But that did really impact me and I felt that. I will admit, I am the type of person who likes a darker story. Those twists and turns are super fun. Even though this book wasn't perfect, I enjoyed it because it did have those elements where it went there and I just was like, what the heck? I didn't expect it to go there and it caught me off guard. That is really all I have to say about this book though. It is a good sequel. I do like the first book way better than this one, but I still really enjoyed it. I am nervous about reading The Last Star, but I'm gonna go into it with an open mind and enjoy it. But thank you for watching. If you have any other book or movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I do check them out. But thank you very much for sticking around and supporting my channel. It means the world to me and I love doing these videos for you guys, so thank you so much. Also, go and check out my blog. The link will flash here. It just keeps you updated on if I'm not going to have any videos up for a week for some reason. Lets you know my video schedule and kind of keeps you updated on some acting stuff that's going on. So if you want to check that out and get updates that way, make sure to go check it out. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this, and don't forget to be awesome. All right. Goodbye. Whoa.